All right. Hello, Leo, Cyrus, Alyssa, Augustus, Benaya. I love y'all, and I miss you. I hope you guys like this book. Magic Treehouse, number 2. The night at dawn. Night. It's like a fighting night, not like dark night. All right, let's go. Dear reader, did you know that the Magic Treehouse book is for every kid? From those just starting to read. Yeah, we'll get to the story. Skip all these other books. Yep, more books. Magic Treehouse. Information. Contents. Ooh. Chapter 1. The Dark Woods. Jack couldn't sleep. He put his glasses on. He looked at the clock. It was 5:30. Too early to get up. Yesterday was so many strange things happened. He was trying to figure them out. He turned on his light and picked up his notebook. He looked at the list he had made before going to bed. Found a treehouse in a wood. Found lots of books in it. Pointed to a pterodon picture in a book. Made a wish. Went to the time of the dinosaurs. Pointed to a picture of Frog Creek in the woods. Made a wish. Came home to Frog Creek. Jack pushed his glasses into place. Who's going to believe any of this? His mother wouldn't believe it. Neither would his dad or his third grade teacher, Miss Watkins. Only his 7-year-old sister, Annie, understood. She had gone with him to the time of the dinosaurs. Can't you sleep? Annie was standing at his door. Nope, said Jack. Me neither, said Annie. What are you doing? She walked over to Jack and looked at his notebook. She read the list. Aren't you going to write about the gold medal? She asked. You mean the golden medallion? Said Jack. He picked up his pencil and wrote, found this in dinosaur time. Aren't you going to put the letter M on the medal? The medallion, said Jack. No, medal. He added the letter M. Aren't you going to write about the magic person? Said Annie. We don't know for sure that there's a magic person, said Jack. Well, somebody built the treehouse in the woods, and somebody put books in it, and someone lost a golden medallion in dinosaur time, said Annie. For the third time, I'm just writing the facts, the stuff we know for sure. Let's go back to the Annie and find out if the magic person is fact. You're nuts, said Jack. The sun isn't even up yet. Annie, maybe we can catch them sleeping. I don't think we should go there, said Jack. He worried, what if the magic person was mean? Or he or she didn't want kids knowing about his treehouse, about the treehouse. Well, I'm going, said Annie. Jack looked out his window at the dark gray sky. It's almost dawn, he sighed. Okay, go get dressed. I'll meet you at the back door. Be quiet. Yay, whispered Annie. She tiptoed away quietly as a mouse. Jack put on his jeans and a warm t-shirt and sneakers. He tossed his notebook and pencil into his backpack. He crept downstairs. Annie was waiting by the back door. She shined at a light in his face. Ta-da! A magic wand, she said. Shh! Don't wake up Mom and Dad, whispered Jack, and turned off the flashlight. We don't want anyone to see us. Annie nodded. She turned off the flashlight. She clipped it onto her belt. Jack and Annie slipped out the door into the cold early morning air. Crickets were chirping. Dogs next door barked. Quiet, quiet. Henry, whispered Annie. Henry stopped barking. Animals always seemed to do what Annie said. Let's run, said Jack. Jack and Annie dashed across the dark, wet lawn and didn't stop until they reached Frog Creek Woods. We need the flashlight now, said Jack, and he took it off her belt and switched it on. Step by step, she and Jack walked between the trees. Jack held his breath. The dark woods were a little scary. Gotcha, said Annie, flashing the flashlight in his face. Jack jumped back. He frowned. Cut it out. I scared you, said Annie. Jack just glared. Stop pretending, he whispered. This is serious. Okay. Annie shut off her flashlight, shined her flashlight into the treetops. Now, what are you doing? Said Jack. Looking for the treehouse. The light stopped moving. The mysterious treehouse sat high in the branches of the tallest tree in the woods. Annie shined her light down the long rope ladder. Ooh, they're climbing up in the middle of the dark. They must be brave. Alyssa, do you think they're brave? I'm going to climb up, she said, still holding the flashlight. She began to climb. Wait, Jack called. What if somebody was in the treehouse? Annie, come back. Annie was gone. The light disappeared, and Jack was all alone in the dark. Ooh. But they were brave, don't you think? Are you brave, Cyrus? Chapter 2, Leaving Again. Annie, shouted Jack. No one's here, she shouted back. Jack thought about going home. He thought about all the trees. He started up the ladder. Then when he was almost at the top, he saw light in the distant sky. Dawn was starting to break. Jack crawled into a hole in the treehouse floor and took off his backpack. And he shined her flashlight on the books scattered on the floor. They're still here, she said. And he shined the light on the dinosaur book. It was the book that had taken them to the time of the dinosaurs. Remember the Tyrannosaurus Rex? Asked Annie. Jack shuddered. Of course he remembered. How could anyone forget seeing a real live Tyrannosaurus Rex? The light fell on a book about Pennsylvania. A red silk mark book stuck out of it. Remember the picture of Frog Creek, said Annie? Of course, said Jack. That was a picture that had brought them home. There's my favorite, said Annie. The light was shining on the book about knights and castles. There was a blue letter bookmark in it. And he turned to the page. There was a picture of a knight on a black horse. He was riding towards a castle. Annie, close the book, said Jack. I know what you're thinking. Annie pointed to the cover. Don't, Annie, said Jack. We wish we could go there, said Annie. Annie said. No, we don't, shouted Jack. The wind began to moan. The leaves began to tremble. It was happening again. We're leaving, cried Annie. Get down. The wind moaned louder. The leaves shook harder. Jack squeezed his eyes shut, and the tree house started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Jack opened his eyes. He shivered. The air was damp and cold. The sound of a horse whinnying came from below. Nay! I think we're here, whispered Annie. She was still holding the castle book. Jack peeked out the window. A huge castle loomed out of the fog. Jack looked around. The treehouse was in a different oak tree. Look, said Annie. Down below, a knight on a black horse was riding by. Oh man, said Jack, that's incredible. But we can't stay here. We have to go home and make a plan first. He picked up the book about Pennsylvania. He opened it to the page with the red silk bookmark. He pointed to the photo of the Frog Creek. No, said Annie. She yanked the book for him. Let's stay here. I want to visit a castle. You're nuts. We need to examine the situation. You can go home, but I'm staying here. Clip the flashlight to her belt. Oh, man. You older siblings, right, Leo? Yeah. Wait, whispered Jack. I'm going to take a peek. A teeny peek, she said. She scooted down the ladder. Jack groaned. Okay, Annie won. He couldn't leave without her. Besides, he sort of wanted to peek himself. Jack put down the book about Pennsylvania. He dropped the castle book into his pack. He stepped onto the ladder and headed down to the into the cold, misty air. Chapter 3: Across the Bridge. Annie was under the tree, looking across the foggy ground. The knight's riding towards that bridge, I think, she said. The bridge goes to the castle. Wait, I'll look it up, Jack said. Give me the flashlight. He took the flashlight from Annie and he pulled the castle book out of his pack. He opened it to the page with the leather bookmark. He read the words underneath the picture of the knight. This is a knight arriving for a castle feast. Knights wore armor when they traveled along the dangerous distances. Armor was very heavy. A tournament helmet could weigh up to 40 pounds. Man, that's heavy. Wow, Jack said. Jack had weighed 40 pounds when he was 5. It would be like riding a horse with a 5-year-old on your head, he thought. Jack pulled out his notebook. He wanted to take notes he'd done on the dinosaur trip. He wrote, heavy head. What else? He turned the pages on the castle book. He found a picture that showed the whole castle and the building surrounding it. The knight was crossing the bridge. The knight was crossing the bridge, said Annie. He's going through the gate. He's gone. Jack studied the bridge in the picture. He read, a drawbridge crossed the moat. The moat was filled with water to help protect the castle from enemies. Some people believe crocodiles were kept in the moat. Jack wrote in his notebook. Crocodiles in moat? ? Look, said Annie, peering through the mist. A windmill right over there. Wow, that's a cool windmill. Yeah, there's a windmill here too, said Jack, pointing to the picture. Look at that real one, Jack, said Annie. Not the one in the book. It's piercing shrill split the air. Yikes, said Annie. It sounded like it came from that little house over there. She pointed through the fog. There's a little house there, said Jack, studying the picture. He turned to the page and read, the Hawk House was in the inward of the castle. Hawks were trained to hunt other birds and small animals. Jack wrote in his notebook, Hawks in Hawk House. We must be in the inner ward, said Jack. Listen, whispered Annie. Do you hear that? Drums, horns. They're coming from the castle. Let's go see. Wait, said Jack. He turned more pages in the book. I want to see what's really going on, Jack. Not what's in the book, said Annie. But look at this, said Jack. He pointed at the picture of a big party. Men and women were standing by the door, playing drums and horns. He read, "Feasts were held in the great hall. Fanfares were played to announce different dishes of feasts. You can look at the book. I'm going to the real feast," said Annie. "Wait," said Jack, studying the picture. It showed boys his age carrying trays of food. On the trays were peacocks with all their feathers and whole pigs and pies. Peacocks, thought Jack. He wrote, "They eat peacocks? Question mark. Jack held up the book to show Annie. "Look, I think they eat. I think they eat. Look, I think they eat." Where was she? Jack looked through the fog. He heard the real drums and the real horns. He saw the real hawk house and the real windmill and the real moat. He saw Annie dashing across the real drawbridge. Then she vanished through the gates leading into the castle. Ooh, scary. Chapter 4. Into the castle. "Oh, brother," muttered Jack. He threw his stuff into his pack and moved towards the drawbridge. He hoped no one would see him. It was getting darker. When Jack got to the bridge, he started across. The wooden planks creaked under his feet. He peered over the edge of the bridge. Are there any crocodiles in the moat? He wondered. He couldn't tell. "Halt!" someone said. A guard on the top of the castle wall was looking down. Jack dashed across the bridge. He ran through the gate and into the courtyard. He heard the sound of music and shouting and laughter. Jack hurried into a dark corner and crouched. He shivered as he looked for Annie. Torches lit the high walls around the courtyard. The courtyard was nearly empty. Two boys led horses that clopped over the gray cobblestones. One of them was the knight's black horse. "Psst, Jack!" Jack peered into the darkness. There was Annie. She was hiding behind a well in the center of the courtyard. She waved at him. Jack waved back. He waited until the boys and the horses disappeared inside the stable. Then he dashed to the well. "I'm going to find the music," whispered Annie. "Are you coming?" "Okay," Jack said with a sigh. They tiptoed together across the cobblestones. They slipped through the entrance of the castle. Laughter and music came from a bright room in front of them. They stood at the doorway, peering in. "The feast in the great hall," whispered Jack. He held his breath. As they stared in awe, blazed at one end of the noisy room. Antlers and rugs hung on the stone walls. Flowers covered the floor. People in bright clothes among the crowd. Some played oddly shaped guitars. Some juggled balls in the air. Some balanced swords on their hands. Boys in short dresses carried huge trays of food. Dogs were fighting over bones under the table. Men and women dressed in capes and furs sat at long, crowded wooden tables. "I wonder which one is the knight," said Jack. "I don't know," whispered Annie. "But look, they're all eating with their fingers." "Halt!" Someone shouted behind them. Jack whirled around. A man was carrying a tray of pies standing a few feet away. "Who art thou?" he said angrily. Jack squeaked. "Jack." Annie squeaked. "Annie." Then they ran as fast as they could down the dimly lit hall. Ooh, look at them running. Who's good at running? Are you good at running, Alyssa? Is Gus good at running? He's getting better. Chapter 5, Trapped. Let's see. Where are we at? I'm going to have to pause this one here because I need to go eat. So, well, I'll finish this one later. Leonidas, Cyrus, Alyssa, Augustus, Benaiah, I love you all. And I miss you guys so much. I hope to see you soon. And Mommy, thank you for what you're doing. Take care of them. And to anybody else who's watching this, I just pray that God is there with you and that you're able to feel close to your family. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. I'll finish this another time. Love y'all.